Thank you very much, Jim Rogers. Jim Rogers is probably in 20 years, I would say, the wisest person that I've seen in the investment business.
Stop, please.
He's an author and an investor. And when we first spoke in 2007, you mentioned that you were concerned about subprime debt in U.S. banks. You said you were concerned about the EU and the euro and the health of Europe with debt. You said Dubai was an amazing story, but you were worried about a real estate crash in Dubai. You said that agriculture was going to do very well. You said that metals and commodities were going to do very well. So for those who weren't paying attention.
I'm going to stop now. I'm never going to say anything again. Wow, 5 out of 5.
Yeah, no, I think it was more like 9 out of 9. Pretty much everything you said was exactly right. So what is your secret? How and you've done this again and again for many, many, many years, and I don't know anyone else who has done it with quite such success.
Well, I'm not quite sure either. I wish I knew how. I would put it in a bottle and sell pills or something, but I just sort of read and watch and figure out that whatever the conventional wisdom is, it's not going to happen the way people think it is, because I've been around long enough to know that conventional wisdom is rarely, if ever, correct, and I guess that's part of it. I'm skeptical, I'm curious, and I try to think for myself. I have 2 little girls. I'm trying to teach them the same thing. You know, to be very skeptical, to think independent, to question everything, beware of the boys. These are things I'm teaching my daughter.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Now here we are in Singapore, and you like this place enough that you now call it home. You've moved here from New York City, longtime New Yorker, and so that kind of speaks volumes about how you feel about it. It clearly is an economic miracle. For other countries in the world, particularly, I spend a lot of time in Saudi Arabia and places like that. What could they do, and what should they do? Maybe they shouldn't, but if they should copy this model, what could they do that would help them duplicate some of this success? And what should they not do?
It depends on the country, but what most countries should. The first rule of thumb is to open up your capital markets and your currency markets, and second, open your borders to immigration. You need capital, you need brains, you need expertise, you need talent. Many countries, I was just in a country that I shall remain nameless, they basically want to be a financial center. It's a country that got independence from the British at the same time Singapore did. They don't like foreigners. They want to be a financial center. I said, how are you going to get people to come here and bring their capital, bring their expertise, bring their brains, and invest here? And even, how are you going to get people to come in just to do the financial things that are necessary? You got to have somebody who knows what they're doing. They don't like foreigners. It's never going to happen. So you got to open up your capital markets, your immigration markets, everything, if you're going to be a successful country in the future.
Great. One thing that's always intrigued me about you, in addition to your more conventional financial success, is your world record traveling. I'm trying to copy at that, but only have gotten a small percentage so far. And in that, I'm always intrigued by the huge gap between reality and perception and misperceptions, misconceptions about different places in the world, whether it's Asia or the Middle East. And we talked about this before. And also lack of economic knowledge, basic economics. In your books, you talk about what should be very simple economic themes, but we see from the top politicians to the so-called economists, they're just missing these concepts of globalization and economics. Why is that? What can we do to make it better?
One of the first things you will learn if you do travel to countries is what you find there is usually entirely different from what you read in the newspapers or see on the television. Partly because the reporters themselves don't go there. And, they don't have a clue, and if they do go there, they fly in. They go to the international airport, they go to the 5-star hotel, they go see the government minister, and they go home. You're not going to learn much about the real world of any country if you do it that way. And I'm afraid that's one reason there's so many misperceptions about what's going on, is because most people, especially if you're talking about journalists these days, there are very few international journalism companies anymore. I mean, the New York Times has very few bureaus around the world anymore. It used to be that the British newspapers had bureaus everywhere. Well, these things have all dried up now. So you don't even have people on the ground anymore, and the ones who do fly in and fly out usually don't get the right thing.
Okay. One final question. We're here at the Global Ag Invest Forum, which is sponsored by HighQuest Partners, and very advanced forum, one of the leading forums of its kind in the world. You've spoken a little bit to this group, and you're going to speak again tomorrow. For a more basic audience, for some of your old colleagues who are back on Wall Street still, who still haven't embraced agriculture, whether it's a sovereign wealth fund or a hedge fund manager or even an individual investor, what do you recommend as a first step? And maybe you could kind of recap about why agriculture is an important investment now.
Well, the first thing is get rid of your prejudices. Most people know that agriculture has been a disaster for 30 years. That's correct. That's fine, but you got to get that out of your mind now, because many things that have been a disaster for 30 years perhaps are changing, and they're going to be great for a few years, and maybe even a few decades. That's the first thing you need to do. And I think if you start looking at the situation in agriculture, you'll see that the supply-demand situation is changing very dramatically. We have been consuming more than we've been producing for most of the last decade, which means inventories are very low. But worse than that, we're running out of farmers. I mean, we don't have enough farmers. The average age of farmers in America is 58. I can go on and on giving you demographic statistics about agriculture. I hope would terrify you. So there are many things happening in agriculture which mean to me that agriculture is going to be fabulous for another 10, 20, 30 years. What you probably should do is become a farmer, or at least learn how to drive a tractor.
Sounds good.
All of these people, all these kids getting MBAs and management degrees and making terrible mistakes. They should be going into agriculture.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. It's wonderful to see you here.
Nice to see you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.